Hello everybody, I'm SocietySucks, and welcome back to another video. This time I'm checking out why didn't Buchanan do more to stop the Civil War by History Matters. I don't know what actions Buchanan took to try and stop the Civil War, but apparently he didn't do much, at least according to the title of this video. So let's see what he actually did.
On the list of worst US presidents, James Buchanan often sits at the top. Most of this comes down to the fact that it was under his watch that the political fabric keeping the United States together finally ripped. It was during the final months of his presidency that it became clear that the South was going to secede, that there would likely be a civil war to keep the Union together, and his response was to do very little. Can you really blame everything on him, though? Which raises the obvious question, why? Why didn't James Buchanan do more to prevent the Civil War? Or at the very least, make it easier for the United States to fight it when it began? So Buchanan became president in 1857 and promised to do two things: serve only one term and use said term to settle the slavery debate forever. Shockingly, he was only successful in doing one of those things. His presidency was not a smooth one. 2 days after he became president, the Supreme Court ruled on the Dred Scott case. It, under some pressure from Buchanan as president-elect, ruled that Dred Scott, and by extension all other slaves, were still slaves even if they were taken to free states. And that furthermore, black Americans were never intended to be citizens anyway. And Buchanan had hoped that such a wide-sweeping ruling would force Americans to just accept slavery's position as settled, but fun fact, no.
They didn't.
So when Plan A, hoped that anti-slavery Americans just sort of forget about it, didn't work, Buchanan was all out of ideas. As such, he continued to push for—
That's it? That was his one plan and there was nothing else? Wow, okay, I can see why he would be at the top of the list for worst presidents ever.
Popular sovereignty, whereby a new state's population could decide on whether it permitted slavery or not, irrespective of previous agreements. Shockingly, not everyone agreed with this, and so as a result, Buchanan just sort of waited out his term. And towards its end, the Democratic Party, of which Buchanan was a member, split between pro-slavery and slightly less pro-slavery factions. As a result, the Republicans, led by Abraham Lincoln, had a good shot of winning. Buchanan was warned, though, that if Lincoln were to win, there would likely be a wave of secessions. So what did President Buchanan do about it? Well, he had a very clever plan. He politely asked that the southern states don't secede, but he told them that if they were to do so, he would do nothing to stop them. After Lincoln's victory, but before he took office, Buchanan was told that secessions were now imminent, and that as a result he should probably do something. He did not. This was mostly because his chosen advisors, such as loyal American patriot Jefferson Davis, told him it would be a violation of states' rights to send troops. This opinion was backed up by his cabinet, many of whom were coincidentally slave-owning Southerners, and collectively they suggested that it was up to Congress to take the lead, and that it had to pass a constitutional amendment to protect slavery and thus end the crisis. And whilst said crisis was growing, many of his cabinet aided the soon-to-be Confederate states by moving guns and money down south and also spying on the president. Soon Buchanan became aware that things were getting bad, and so under a lot of pressure began to take secession seriously. He pushed for a ban on federal intervention concerning slavery, but before this could get off the ground, these states were out. Buchanan asked Lincoln to publicly express that he wasn't going to threaten slavery, but Lincoln refused. Lincoln refused to do this because 1, he knew that the South wouldn't trust him, and 2, that any reassurances he gave would only anger the North, and 3, he was ideologically opposed to the expansion of slavery, which many Southerners and Northerners saw as vital for its continued existence, and so he didn't want to openly lie about it. With Lincoln being silent, Buchanan maintained a policy of not upsetting the South.
I mean, let's be honest, slavery is still a thing. We're all slaves to the government. We all have to pay taxes, whether we like it or not.
In case more states seceded. Spoiler alert, they did. This might seem like it did nothing, but Buchanan knew that he was so unpopular, his input would only make things worse. And after the numerous conventions and congressional attempts at maintaining the Union failed, he was only going to stay in office for another couple of days, at which point it was no longer his problem.
I mean, his term ended, it's the next guy's problem now. It's kind of the same as saying, you know what, not my problem, the next generation will deal with it, when it comes to issues like climate change, for example. Which is real and it's a problem. I haven't seen snow in a good couple of years. The most we've had was like a week of snow, maybe, and that was it. But that's not what this video is about. So, yeah, Buchanan sucked. He really didn't do much. He didn't even try. Why even try to become president if you're not gonna do anything with it? What's the point? I suppose it doesn't matter. He's long dead and the issue of slavery has been solved. At least in most countries. But that's a discussion for another video, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're interested, why not watch this video right here? And with that, I hope I'll see you in the next video.